Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar this morning. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of the challenges that installers face on a day-to-day basis when installing boosting water products in domestic and light commercial applications. I'm joined with Karl Wolf on this webinar. He's going to be going through a couple of the solutions that Xylem can offer and a couple of the challenges that are quite apparent in modern building services applications. So we'll start the webinar now. I'm going to pass it over to Karl.
Yeah, thank you, Liam. So my name is Karl. I'm coming from Austria, and I'm taking care for the European building service solution market. And before we start with the specific topic about the new product, we want to quickly introduce our building solutions and give some guidance for the webinar. So today, most of our buildings have a significant negative impact on our environment, on the climate change, simply because most of the building stock is old and was built before the 70s in Europe, and we have old systems which are not efficient in terms of energy, which are not efficient in terms of water use. And our objective is simply to change this and build more sustainable buildings with reduced energy, CO2 and water footprint. Having this said, let's quickly look on our webinar today and how we will manage the question and answers. So we will guide you today through our topics, and there will be a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. Yeah? And when you look on your bottom of your screen, you have there 3 little signs. Yeah? There's a chat room that you can use at any time to chat with your peers in the call. Yeah? There is a raise your hand button. You can use this during the Q&A session, simply to speak up. And if you want or have already questions during the webinar and you want to write them, please use the Q&A button on the right-hand side, because there we can officially track what have you asked, and we can answer in the chat, or we can respond immediately during the call. So please focus to use the Q&A section, and we will have in any case the Q&A session at the end of the call. Good. So today we will simply discover this new solution about the water supply and pressure boosting in buildings, and we will learn about the benefits and features about the compact brake tank booster set, the Reservoir Plus. Yeah? Liam and me are guiding you through today's call. And when we look on our overall building solutions from Xylem, when we look from the top view of that, we are serving all the water cycles in a building. So we are having solutions for the water supply and pressure boosting when the water comes in. We are talking here about pumping solution, metering, energy optimization. We will see this in some details later on, because also the Reservoir Plus is part of these solutions in this application segment in a building. Then we have HVAC solutions. We have wastewater and stormwater solutions, and we have fire protection solutions. So we have really a very wide portfolio to help to make green buildings more green and more efficient. So talking about water supply, this is a general overview here with the applications that we serve. So from the metering, when the water comes inside of a building, to a possible booster set in a commercial building with hydro on the top, which is a frequency drive which can be mounted on an installed and any installed pump, electro pump, on a standard motor for energy optimization. We have UV treatment to ensure safe drinking water inside of the building. Also combined with monitoring and control applications. We do sub-meterings in the apartment. We have digital devices and services to connect the systems to cloud-based services to monitor our systems 24 hours, 7 days a week, to ensure that everything is okay. And next to the surface solutions that you see here, we have also a wide range of groundwater supply and rainwater solutions. So when we talk about water supply in general, I want quickly to underline that the water consumption in buildings is an essential part of the European water demand. The consumption is varying by the end user, it's varying by the building, by the culture, by the climate conditions, but especially in the light of water scarcity, we need to improve water efficiency inside of buildings, and this is also directly connected to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And just a quick overview here on the left-hand side, you see that 21% of the water is consumed in the public water supply, meaning in buildings, meaning by us. And on the right-hand side, you quickly see how the water is in average consumed in a household. Yeah, so a lot of water in the kitchen and dishwashing, irrigation, cooling and heating, and in the sanitary. And Xylem is here to support consultants, engineers and contractors, installers, and also OEMs to create safe water and energy efficient water supplies for buildings. And now we will jump into the application of water supply and pressure boosting. This is very specifically where we will find our new reservoir, and Liam will tell us now more about this new solution about for water supply and pressure boosting inside of buildings. Okay. So here we have quickly an overview about the different challenges in the application. So we have an ever-increasing demand of our water supply. We need always the pressure at the right point, at the right point in the building at the right time. There is in addition, a lot of water companies are reducing the pressure to reduce the leakage, the water loss by leakages. There are water demand peaks that we need to manage, especially in the morning, at lunch, or in the evening. We need to monitor and control the water demand and also the related pressure. And of course, we also need to integrate our house size, like solar panels, air conditioning units, and water tanks, or rainwater harvesting, to simply make buildings more sustainable. And our purpose is simply to guarantee stable water pressure at any time of the demand, and the demand that is needed, to ensure the lowest energy consumptions, and to make it simple for our customers to install it, and to have an easy life when it is installed. And now we're looking on the solutions adapted specifically on the reservoir. Liam? The stage is yours.
Thank you, Karl. So yes, thank you for everyone for joining today. We are looking to release a brand new product to the portfolio at the end of the month. This would be named the Reservoir Plus, and it fits into our compact brake tank booster set range of products, and it's built in the UK. So today I just wanted to talk about the problems that installers face on a day-to-day basis. The design overview of the Reservoir Plus. We'll talk about the features and benefits, the stock situation, and the product documentation that will be available at the time of launch. So we'll talk about the problems that installers face. So generally, over the past kind of 10, 15, 20 years, we're generally finding that buildings are getting taller and taller. And they are ever increasing, getting wider as well. So we're finding that a typical 2 to 3 bedroom house is being kind of extended. Loft conversions are being added to buildings, and with those extensions and with those loft conversions, there tend to be an increase in water demand. So whereas the traditional 1 to 2 bedroom house would have 1 bathroom, we're now looking at en suites, multiple bathrooms, which increase the flow rate that is required for that building. And also with the extensions and pipework going into the loft as well, there's also a natural demand for more pressure to overcome those losses in the pipework. And at the same time, more modern appliances, more luxury appliances that require greater pressures and greater flow rates than what we would have seen kind of 10, 15, 20 years ago. So there's generally a greater demand on more flow and more pressure in modern day houses. And at the same time, we're also seeing water authorities reducing the pressures that we see going into houses. So whereas we might have seen 1 to 2, 3 bar previously, we're now seeing that water authorities are reducing the pressure that's going into the mains, reducing the pressure in the system to overcome some of the water that has leaked, that is lost through pipework leakage. And as is shown at the bottom of the slide there, from the BBC, in the UK as a whole, about 23% of the water that's put into a public supply is lost due to leaks. Now, water authorities are only have to provide 1 bar into a domestic dwelling. So as you can see, there's a bit of difference between houses requiring more flow and pressure, and then at the same time, water authorities reducing the pressure going into buildings to overcome some of the losses in the system. And then also the UK being a little unique from mainland Europe, being the fact that every time you want to boost the pressure on the main system that exceeds a flow rate of 12 litres a minute, you have to have an air gap between the water level and the inlet into the mains. So this is generally to prevent cross-contamination or contamination into the mains. So we're seeing now in the UK, in legislation has stated over the past kind of 10, 15 years, that before you can boost the water pressure into your house, it has to go into a break tank, and it has to have an air gap between the water level and the inlet of the mains. So we've got 3 kind of issues then at play. We've got the water authorities reducing pressure going into domestic dwellings. You've got a general requirement for more pressure and more flow due to design of buildings and requirements of modern day applications. And you've also got a requirement from the water authorities to have an air gap between the level of the water and to the main supply. So based on these problems, there is a requirement for a compact break tank booster set to boost the water for domestic and light commercial applications, which is the reason why we have launched, or will be launching at the end of the month, the Resvari Plus, the compact break tank booster set. So in this section, we're going to be talking about the design of the product. It generally comes in 2 parts, or we're referring it to in 2 parts. You've got the head, which is the drive, the pressure vessel, pipework, and that's all mounted on a mild steel bracket. And then you've got the GRP tank that the head sits on. And inside the tank, you're looking at a stainless steel submersible pump, and you've got your traditional float valve and float switch to protect the pump. And as you can see here, this is the view of the unit from inside. So if you were to remove the lid of the unit, you can see the scuba pump sitting right in the middle there. Then your ball cock to the right. And we've designed the unit, especially in terms of footprint, to sit quite nicely in a domestic installation. So it doesn't look out of place in your garage or an outhouse or a utility room. And in terms of the footprint of the unit, it doesn't differ too much away from a traditional washing machine or a tumble dryer. So you're looking at a washing machine or tumble dryer having a width of about 600 by 600 deep. And we follow that as well. So our unit is around about 600 deep and 700 wide. And this allows it to be maneuvered through a traditional domestic single doorway, and the single doorway being round about 750 wide by 2 meters tall. So you're able to maneuver the Resvari Plus through a domestic doorway without any changes. So now we're going to be talking about the features and benefits of this new product. These are the topics in terms of the performance, the efficiency, the suitability for potable water, the flexibility of the product, and the reliability of the components. So in terms of performance, we're using 8 variants of scuba pump inside the Resvari Plus, and the flow rates range from around about 1 cube an hour all the way up to 7. And in terms of the pressure, we can see that one of the smallest scuba units, the 3-3, that will do around about 2.5 bar at 3 cubes an hour, all the way up to the most powerful unit, which does round about 7.5 bar pressure. closed valve. And in terms of the performance as well, because the unit is built with a variable speed drive, you can set the variable speed drive to deliver a constant pressure. So as a traditional kind of domestic application, depending on how many outlets you have open, depending on the flow rate, the pump will ramp up and slow down to maintain a constant pressure within that dwelling. Next, we're going to move over to the efficiency of the product, and we're going to be talking about the variable speed drive. So this is the drive that we fit onto every Resvari Plus. And the general rule of thumb is variable speed drives can cut energy consumption up to 70%, and that's compared to a traditional fixed speed unit. Now, that is a general rule of thumb, and that's kind of a rule that we've used in terms of talking about variable speed drives. So your mileage may vary depending on the application, but that's a general rule of thumb. So you can cut the energy consumption up to 70% versus a fixed speed unit. And as I mentioned earlier, the drive modulates the speed of the pump depending on the flow requirement. So you've got one tap open, pump will run slowly, all the way up to if the shower was on, if a bath was running, the pump will run flat out. The drive itself, it's very similar to what we purchased out of Italy, which is the Resi Boost. However, it's been slightly modified for the UK market. And it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect for domestic light commercial use. So it perhaps doesn't have the features you would find on an SMB set or a GHV set. It doesn't have BMS control, but for this type of application, it's absolutely perfect at maintaining a constant pressure. We've also modified the parameters very slightly, so to prevent a user, a house owner, from accidentally changing some of the settings and rendering the unit useless. So we've hidden a lot of the important settings behind a commission menu. So that's just for a service engineer to modify on site. And like I said, this will prevent errors from happening and stopping the water supply. And also with this unit here, we're allowed for two drives to speak to each other. And compared to an SMB or a GHV booster set, they act in the same way. So if one of the drives was to fail or one of the pumps was to fail, the second unit will take over and become the master unit. In terms of efficiency as well, we'll talk about the scuba unit. So we are using the latest generation of scuba pump. It was already an efficient unit, but we've made improvements to improve the efficiency. And it is now, the latest generation is now one of the, if not the most efficient 5-inch submersible multi-stage pump on the marketplace. And it's also fitted with an IE3 rated motor as well. Moving over to the flexibility of the product. As you can see, as a slide I've shown you previously, it fits quite nicely into a utility room. So it's not too obstructive. It doesn't take up too much room at a domestic dwelling, but it's also perfect for crowded plant rooms and storeroom cupboards. So if you're looking at an application which is really limited on space, then you could look to use a Resvari Plus to provide that cold water boosting pressure. Another thing that we've looked to integrate with in terms of flexibility of the product is the back bracket can be removed. So in terms of the head of the unit, you've got two side brackets which hold the back bracket in place. So if there was ever a time where you wanted to install the Resvari Plus unit, maybe kind of outside, and you wanted to protect the drive from weather, you can detach the back bracket and fit it to a wall, an internal wall, or somewhere where you can access a little bit more easier than when it's mounted to the top of the unit. It also gives the user a little bit of flexibility, so they can remove the back bracket, put all the pipework in place behind the unit, and then reattach it. So if there's ever a leak on some of the pipework or a leaky valve, for example, the installer can remove the back bracket, access the pipework, and then replace it. And what we're supplying along with the Resvari Plus unit is an assist tank. So we started looking on supplying these units on the original Resvari that was released kind of 10 years ago. So we're looking to carry over that idea. So if you wanted to extend the stored water capacity to 500 litres, you'd be able to purchase another 250 litre tank, and then you could couple the two together using just a bit of pipe work. We recommend an 1.25 inch or an inch and a half connection at the bottom of the tank. So this is perfect for high volume requirements that are running for longer periods of time than a typical domestic dwelling. So if you wanted to install these units in a sports centre or a school where their showers are on for maybe a couple of minutes and there's a high flow requirement, you can have an assist tank to assist you with that stored water. Talking about one of the main aspects of the design of the product, we've designed it so that the Resvari head, the item with the bracket, the drive, the pipework, is actually one single part number. So regardless of the pump that you choose to use in your Resvari Plus, there's only one part number that we use down in Axminster. Now this gives us the benefit as we can stock the head in Axminster, and that can significantly reduce the amount of time it takes to build up a unit. So rather than building up a unit from scratch and it taking an hour and a half, what we're able to do in Axminster is we're able to fit a Resvari head off the shelf onto a tank, and it can go out the same day. So for applications where you're desperate for one of these units on a same day dispatch, then we have that option available. But also what it allows us to do is it allows us to sell the head by itself. So if you're an installer and there's already a tank on site and you want to keep that tank, let's say it's a 500 or a 750 litre tank that's in good condition, you're able to buy the head off us as a separate item, bolt to the top of the tank, and then buy a scuba unit off of us separately. So you're able to almost take an existing unit and take a fixed speed unit and turn it variable speed with just having to buy the drive from us, the head off us and a scuba pump. So looking to take advantage of what we've done with the Hydrovar many years ago in converting fixed speed systems into variable speed. And as I mentioned previously, when talking about the drive also allows us to have two units linked together. So you can essentially have a twin pump system with a capacity of 500 litres by purchasing two units and then linking the two together. And all it is just a typical cable that links the two drives together. And as I mentioned earlier, it's got the standard features you would find in a variable speed drive. So duty rotation. So it swaps heads to maintain equal wear over both pumps. And also, as you find with a boosting application, which is duty assist or duty standby, a second pump will come in when the first one was to fail or encounter an error, or the second unit will come in where the first unit isn't able to keep up with the demand. So you've got a couple of options there in terms of the flexibility of the unit. Now we've got to move over to the materials that we use for this product, so the suitability for potable water. So we wanted to move away from kind of any plastic materials in terms of the pipework. So all of the materials that we use on the unit are stainless steel, brass or copper, so all premium materials. We're using no ferrous parts at all. So it is suitable for a typical potable water application. And what we were quite keen to do is we were quite keen to standardize on the highest level of backflow prevention, which is suitable for category 5 applications, and our units come with an AB air gap. So as I mentioned earlier, what we require in the UK is for any kind of boosting application where you're taking from the mains, there needs to be an air gap between the top layer of the water up to the inlet of the unit. So there's no cross-contamination. Now, category 5 allows us to install these units in serious health hazard environments where there's a concentration of pathogenic organisms, radioactive or very toxic substances. So you'll be able to install these units in applications such as abattoirs or recycling centres where there is hazardous chemicals around. So in terms of the category 5 unit, we have the overflow, which is fitted on the right hand side, and we also have the weir installed on the left. So as you can see, so in the case of a rare failure where the tank keeps on flowing, where let's say the float valve is stuck against the side of the tank and keeps on filling the unit, the water will then initially come out of the overflow. But if there is ever an issue with the overflow, let's say the strainer basket is full and it blocks the access, you're also able to rely on the weir, which is on the left-hand side. So that maintains a constant air gap between the water level and the inlet. So there's no ever chance of cross-contamination going back into the main supply. We're talking about the reliability of the product now. So we use the scuba unit. So the pump that we use is the scuba, as I've mentioned, and this is generally known as a robust product with a stainless steel casing. And we also use technopolymer impellers, which for an agriculture application where there's sand in the water, they generally tend to last a little bit longer than stainless steel impellers. But that's not applicable to this application because the water that you'll be pumping will be cold, clean water from the mains. And also to protect the pump from dry running, we use a traditional float switch, typical to what you find on our other brake tank boost set products. And this will protect the pump from dry running. Let's say if the pump flow was to outstrip the incoming supply. And then as well as the dry run protection, the physical dry run protection with the float switch, we also have the electronic offering as well. So with the drive, if the drive senses that the pump can't hit pressure 4 or 5 times over a set period of time, then it will cut the pump off. So you've got your secondary dry run protection as well. You've also got electronic protection preventing overload of the pump motor, over and the voltage as well. So, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're quite keen to hold stock of this product down at Axminster. So we're stocking 250 litre tanks in Axminster. We're stocking at least 2 to 3 heads down in Axminster as well. So we're able to turn around a complete unit in a day, in a decent amount of time. So you'll be able to get your product on the next day service. And we're also looking to stock probably what we think is the most popular product that we're looking for, the Resvari Plus 250 5-4. So it's the top of the range, top of the performance unit. So we'll be stocking that in Axminster as well. So even if you did have an urgent application that requires a unit on a next day service, we're able to cater for that down in Axminster. And then moving over to the product documentation that will be available at launch. So this is the glossy literature. This will be available this week, and it highlights some of the features and benefits we spoke about today, talking about the performance, flexibility, the efficiency. The Resvari Plus will be entered onto Xylem later on this month. So fingers crossed, all being well, the product will be available for selection in August. So you'll be able to select the Resvari Plus as you would do any other Loara product or any other flight product by logging onto Xylem, putting in your duty, and then selecting the Resvari Plus range to select from. And at Xylem, you'll be able to, on the Xylem website, you'll be able to download product documentation, spec sheets specific to this product. You'll also be able to download step drawings, DXF files as well. Product documentation in terms of the exploded spare parts diagrams, they will be available on Spark as well. So if you've ever used Loara Spark, which is the website for exploded parts diagrams, you'll be able to search for the Resvari Plus as you would do any other product as well. So that will be available at the time of launch. And we're also looking to have the BIM models available as well in the coming weeks. So the step files and the DXF files for the models are available down in Axminster. But as I mentioned, they'll be transferred over to Xylem later on this month for availability in August. But we are also looking to include BIM files for consultants as well. So that's myself finished there. I just wanted to hand over to Karl then, just to finish off the presentation.
Yeah, before we go to our Q&A session, we quickly want also to remember that we're not only supporting to create more sustainable buildings with our solutions, we also create social value with our watermark activities. We have partners around the world, and especially when you look now to the news with the disasters in Germany and in Central Europe with the thunderstorms in the last week, we are now already helping there with associations to help the people who are impacted, but not only here, of course, also in countries where it's not, I would say, a daily business that you open the tap and you can get clean water out of that. We also helping in Cambodia, in countries, to get schools supplied with fresh water. So we have there a lot of partnerships, also in UK with Citizen Givens from Manchester City. So yeah, just to add this. Yeah, and now we can come to our Q&A session. And Liam, I have seen there were some questions from Richard and from Steve in the chat, and there are two related to regulations. One is from Steve and one is from Richard. So is the unit DWI compliant for the UK market, and is it RAS approved, or will it be in the future?
Yes, the answer to both of them is yes, it will be in the future. In terms of RAS approval, we're in a similar position to some of our other competitors to say that the components on the unit are RAS approved. So the tank is RAS approved, the vessel is RAS approved. We're undergoing RAS approval on the scuba pump at the moment. So when the RAS approval comes through for the scuba, we'll look to get the whole unit RAS approved as a complete package. So I'm unable to give a time frame at the moment, but it is something we're definitely looking to introduce in the coming months.
Okay, good, thank you. And then we have two design questions. The one is, will it have a slow fill mode built in?
Unfortunately not, no. So we may be able to look at this in the future if there is a demand for it, but no, it's more of a basic drive that we're using with this product. So unfortunately, the drive doesn't have a slow fill mode built in.
Okay, and then there's another question. I hope I understand it correct, but maybe you can also look with me, Liam, in the chat. Sure. It's called, would it be better to have an, I guess, stainless steel bracket or even an GRP option? Yeah, sure. So in terms of stainless steel, stainless steel is a lovely material and it looks fantastic. However, we were quite keen to keep the price of the product low, well, not low, but competitive enough. So that everyday homeowners can purchase a unit. So in terms of costing, we've gone for mild steel. Now GRP, that's another option, but we wanted to kind of keep the strength of the product as well. So to maintain its kind of robustness and rigidity, we've stuck to kind of a mild steel construction, and that just ensures the unit is properly stable. And there's a question from Richard about to which family group this will be set under, so belonging. Yeah, so the family group that this would be down as, I believe, you put me on the spot here, but I believe it's 5C in terms of the Loire family code. So it's not classed as a variable speed booster set. It will have its own discount structure set up. I think it's probably more aligned with family code we use for a fixed speed booster set. But you'll be able to speak to your sales rep or your local Xylem contact in terms of discount structure. Okay, and when we have now talked about the family group, what's about the warranty period? How long will be the warranty? So standard Loire products, it will be 2 years. So 2 years from the date of invoice. Okay, so we have now a comment based on one of the answers from Steve, okay, who is saying it could cause issues with DWI and RAS as B-metal issues.
In terms of using mild steel compared to stainless steel or GRP, of course, if the RAS body does say that it needs to be changed to have RAS approval, then we may need to change it. However, as the bracket is not a wetted component, we don't really see that being an issue. I might be wrong, but because the back bracket and the top plate are not in contact with the water, we don't see that being an issue, because there is the back bracket does sit on top of the lid, so there is a layer of GRP between the cast iron and the water.
Okay, thank you, Liam. So we have now answered all the questions from the Q&A section and the box, the chat. So maybe there's someone in the audience who has another question, and maybe you can also try to speak up. In the meanwhile, Liam, is there something you like to add? Maybe on the availability or something?
Yeah, sure. So like as I mentioned a little earlier, we're looking to release the product at the end of this month. What I would say is, if you are interested in a little bit more information, the product documentation will be available this week. What I can ask you to do is if you can get in touch with your local sales rep, either be it your building services contact or your distribution contact, and we'll be able to kind of send some information out. And if you've got any specific questions on the product, then please feel free to get in touch. My email address, similar to all other Xylem employees, is liam.miller@xylem.com.
Okay, thank you very much, Liam. There is no further question or comment in the chat, so I guess we have covered all the topics. One question that we have answered already during the webinar is that there was the question if we share the deck. So the recording and the slides will be shared afterwards with the audience. So you will get all the information. And as Liam said it, simply reach out to him and to the colleagues and to us if you have any question. I think we're already now at the end, or Liam, what do you think?
I think so. I think we've answered all questions, but like I mentioned, if anybody has any other concerns or they want to talk about the product or talk about the launch of the product, then please feel free to get in touch with your sales contact, or get in touch with myself at liam.miller@xyleminc.com, or xylem.com now, sorry.
Ask Liam directly, it's faster. Okay, good. Then have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers, everybody.